we are just going to continue with the lessons that we've been having regarding parenting. Ne? So, but for today's study, I just thought that we should review the nature of man. You know, the study was done by Elder Paminda, I think it was 2017. And as I was thinking this week how to approach, I'm gonna really approach, you know, or try to enlarge on the subject of conscious parenting. I just thought that maybe we should revisit the study of the nature of man, maybe just to highlight a few things, and maybe it will help us to understand why conscious parenting and not traditional or permissive. I just think it would be helpful. So we'll just begin by reviewing that. I'm going to share my screen. Please confirm if you see anything on your side. But I'm going to share. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So I really believe that all of us will still remember, you know, the study of the nature of man, but it's just going to be a revision. So just so that we just make the point, or we take the point that you want to make regarding, you know, conscious parenting. Yeah? So we are so familiar with this quote. It says, no work ever undertaken by men requires greater care and skill than the proper training and education of youth and children. There are no influences so potent as those which surround us in our early years, says the wise man. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. The nature of man is threefold, and the training enjoyed by Solomon comprehends the right development of the physical, the intellectual, and the moral powers. To perform this work aright, parents and teachers must themselves understand the physical powers. To perform, okay, no, I think there was an error there. It says to perform this work aright, parents and teachers must themselves understand the way the child should go. This embraces more than a knowledge of books or the learning of the schools. It comprehends the practice of temperance, brotherly kindness, godliness, the discharge of the duty to ourselves and to our neighbors and to God. So we thank God anyway that the subject, you know, the nature of man came before, you know, it was part of the, you know, the message is that, you know, God made us understand before the equality message. I think you get what I'm trying to say. Because anyway, in this quotation says, Ellen White says that it is very important for parents and teachers to understand the nature of men. You know, for the training of a child, we need to understand the nature of men. And she says that here that it composes or it is threefold, which is the physical, the intellectual, and the moral powers. Now, so in short, this is the nature of man in threefold, as you can see in the diagram. It's the physical, the intellectual, and the moral power. So every human being created by God has these three components, né? The physical, the intellectual, and the moral. And then there's this quotation, Adventist Home from 127. It says, the lower passions have their seat in the body and work through it. and then the quotation, continues. But then what we get from this quotation is that as much as we have the nature of men being threefold, which is the physical, intellectual, and the moral, also the nature of men can be understood in twofold, which is the lower passions and the higher, or the lower powers and the higher powers. When you the fact that Ellen White uses lower, it you can, it means that there is the higher or something like that. Just that I've forgotten the English word what to say. But then, so in this quotation, it says the lower passions have their seat in the body and they work through it. And from our understanding, because those videos on Elder Pamela did these lessons, they took hours and hours. So I'm just doing a shortcut because I know that we already understand the subject. But then, so the lower passions that are being spoken of here are which ones? When looking at this threefold, the physical, the moral, and the intellectual. So when looking at nature of man through the whatever of threefold, it's physical, moral, intellectual. But then when we're looking at the nature of man through the twofold concept, the physical are the lower powers or the lower passions, and then the intellectual and the moral are the higher powers. I think, I'm not sure if you understand me. And then it continues to say the words flesh or fleshy or the carnal lust embrace the lower corrupt nature. The flesh of itself cannot act contrary to the will of God. We are commanded to crucify flesh with the affections of lust and what. So we understand that the lower passions are the physical, but the physical, we understand they are non-physical, because okay, Sister Wa says that they have their seat way in the body. So the lower passions, which are the emotions, which are the feelings, they have their seat in the body, and they work through the physical body. So the lower passions are non-physical, but they work through the body. So the emotions and all that, we see the emotions through the facial expressions or the body movements and all that. So these are the lower passions. And when going back to this threefold, they are the physical. The physical. So, but we understand they are non-physical. So here in this diagram, you can see at the top here, I said the nature of man. And then when you break the nature of man through understanding it, okay, the nature of man is twofold, the higher powers and the lower powers. So the higher powers and the lower powers, the higher powers are the intellectual and the moral. And then the lower powers are the physical. But the physical is what? Is non-physical. I think we guys already understand this. And then it continues to say that the will is the governing power in the nature of man, bringing all other faculties under its sway. It will not, the will is not the test or the inclination, but it is the deciding power which works in the children of men unto obedience to God or unto disobedience. Okay, so the higher powers are also divided into two. Higher powers, number one, we have the intellectual. Remember, the just to revise so that we work together. The nature of man is what? Threefold, which is the intellectual, the physical, and the moral. Okay, the intellectual, the moral, and the physical. The intellectual and the moral are the higher powers, and then the physical are the lower powers. And the lower powers, they have their seat where? In the body. They express themselves through the body. The lower powers are not physical. We cannot see them, we cannot touch them, but they do express themselves through the body that we see, that is physical. Yeah. And Ellen White says that the lower powers also cannot go contrary to the will of God. They cannot do anything by themselves. So how do they then how do they then express themselves, or how do they because they cannot go contrary to the will of God, then the question is, how do they how does it get to how you know, when English escapes, how, how does it happen that, you know, we end up seeing the emotions and the feelings get expressed? The answer is, it's the governing power is the one that decides. It's the deciding power. Ne? The governing power, which are the higher powers, the moral and the intellectual. So when you look at the intellectual, that's where the information is stored. That's where that's the seat of knowledge. That's where the information happens. That's where you know, like, I think that's the seat really of learning and understanding and memory. So it says intellectual ability to gather information, to understand information, to have knowledge, to retrieve information, the memory. That's the intellectual. Yeah? And then the part two of the higher powers is the moral, where there is the reason, the will, and the conscious. That's where the power to choose, you know, is. And how does, I'm not sure if I put it here on these notes. So these two, the higher powers one and the higher powers two, they work together. They work together. So let me see what's next so that I decide. Okay, so so how do they work together? The okay, this part two is the one that decides, né? But when for it to decide, it references on the intellect. Okay, so for an example, but I could be wrong on some of the things because I don't have really a thorough knowledge, but this is just my understanding that, let's say, you know, I'm in a situation where, you know, I smell, you know, when you're pregnant, you've got those hormonal things in, you know, and then you start craving for things that you shouldn't be eating. Like for an example, I then start craving for meat. So my emotions, that's the lower passions, they are telling me, or through the body, I get, you know, the expressions, or the stomach is like, grow, and you know, I smell this nice aroma of meat, like I want, now I'm craving for meat, I want meat. But then, you know, me smelling that nice smell and craving, you know, I cannot then, like that information, then I think it comes then now to the to the deciding power if I should eat that meat or not. Yeah, so the will, or before the decision is made, that's what I think. The intellect, based on the information that I have on my intellect, that is it healthy for me to eat, and yeah, all the information, that's the knowledge and the memory and all that, it consults, and then the information that's there, they're like, no, I cannot eat and all that, and then the will says, and even my conscience will be like, based on the information that's there, I know it's not healthy, I cannot, and then get the will be like, no, we are not eating the meat, and then the decision is made. But yeah, all that happens in a split of a second, I think, you see. So yes, the will is the one that decides, and it doesn't matter what the lower passions, they may scream to the loud voice as they like, but the will at the end of the day is the one that decides. That's why Ella Paminda is just that we have the strength, we have the power to choose, and we can do right. We can choose to do right. We can choose not to sin, and in our own strength, because the deciding power, we have it. We can decide, because sin is a choice, right? We understand all those things, that we can choose to sin or not to sin, right? Okay, so this quotation, it says, every child should understand the true force of the will. He should be led to see how great is the responsibility involved in this gift. The will is the governing power in the nature of man, the power of decision or choice. Every human being possessed of reason has power to choose right. In every experience of life, God's word to us is, choose you this day whom you will serve. Okay, so this quotation, I'm just not gonna finish it. It does inform or tell us that every human being possessed of reason has the power to choose right. Okay, so are we still together?
Yes, Letwin.
Okay, thank you so much. So this works, the power, every man being possessed of reason has power to choose. So in that statement, you can deduct or take away also that not every human has power to choose. Okay, so it works perfectly, or we can say everyone that has power to choose, of course, I mean the power to reason, is able to choose right. So where I'm going with this is that, or maybe let me ask you, do children can children reason? Because everyone that can reason has power to choose. And this, this nature of man thing that I was trying to describe, or even how the deciding gets to happen, the will and the reason, I mean the moral powers and the intellectual, it applies to everyone that can reason. So can children reason? Maybe that's the question that I have. What do you guys think? Can children reason?
No.
So what do you think makes them not to be able to reason? Based on this nature of man revision that we have just gone through, what makes children not to be able to reason? So if they can't reason, then it means they can't choose, right? Yeah. And what's the missing factor then? What is it that they are missing that doesn't put them or doesn't give them that capacity to choose right? Always, of course. Hello. Sfiso, I saw you unmuting. Did you want to say something?
No, because I'm thinking that children will not reason because they are still young and they are growing up. They need to learn before someone needs to guide them for to reason. Like because children are coming from the human, growing human. Charlie can't reason because it's too young for making decisions that is right or wrong because it's young. They need to learn. They need to learn, those children, to reason, and they want to see something that is directing them to show them what is wrong, what is right by our by our like make me make a reason for like you are a parent. They need to learn to you. They see you, what are you doing? They need to learn. That's why I'm saying that children, their mind, they are still young. They need to learn to their parents. Because even me, I'm a growing man. Even you, the children are a growing woman. Children need to learn before. That's why they're not to reason, make the reason, decision right or wrong. They don't know what they are doing. That's why I'm saying.
Okay, thank you, Sfiso. Anyone else?
Hello?
Yes. Patmos?
Yes. So you can correct me. I think they can reason according to the little knowledge that they have. But they can grow. As ourselves, we are always growing, but we are also reasoning. So they can have a power of reasoning like us, but not that I differ from what Julia has said. Yes. But I think they can reason.
Okay.
Hello,
Anyone?
Letwin. Hello there.
Hello. Yes.
Yes.
Again.
Yeah. No, I would like to also add to say yes, children can reason, and very reasonable, where they are able to stand for their point, unless you put them in that particular box where you say no, because you are a child, there is nothing that you can add on what is on the table. And I think that it's able to speak. I mean, if a child is able to speak and able to reason why I don't like, for example, I would not like to eat this because of 1, 2, 3, he's putting a reason why he's not able to do so. So they have that capacity to be able to reason.
Okay. Anyone else?
No.
Milton.
Okay. So when you look at the structure that we have laid there, we know even when you look at the signs of how a human being come into existence, we know that the brain is the first thing which is actually starts to develop in a child. And when they are born, we know that there is going to be a process of development. At a certain age, like I think, for example, from 7, even before children they start actually to gain, if you look at Hawaii Powers 1 and 2, understanding, knowledge, if everything is normal, they are growing well, their memory bank starts to store information. And when you look at their lower powers, there is already even emotions and feelings which are there already by DNA. So those things are going to develop. In that stage, we know that there is need of guidance. But to answer your question, children, they do reason. And in that process, I think when you compare what Ellen White is saying about the role of parents, it's to guide them to know how to use those powers, because it's their inalienable right to actually use their mind. So parents are not there to think for children, but it's to guide them, to help them to know how to think. That's how that process of reasoning is going to develop. And it works either way. Even adults, we do continue to grow, and our reasoning capacity is affected by the knowledge at each and every dispensation or change which happens. So there's no difference between adults and children in the way our mind works. It's just the issue of how much information they have at a certain stage. And they just need to be guided to understand how they use those powers, independent of our influence.
Thank you, Martin. Is there anyone else who wants to say something?
Hi, Letwin.
I can't see who is talking. I couldn't pick the voice.
Hi, Letwin, it's Lindelwa.
Oh, yes, Lindel. Yes, go ahead.
I agree with I think last 2-3 speakers who are of the view that children can reason. Can you hear me?
Yes.
If we were to lighten the part which is responsible for the decision making, if we were to liken it to a muscle, the muscle at an earlier stage of it can lift up a kg. But as you keep on practicing, as you keep on giving it more challenge, eventually it can lift up a 10 kg. So what I'm trying to say children have that capacity to reason. As Milton has said, that parents and teachers, then their responsibility is to help them through, guide them through that thought process towards, decision making. And if we're to go back actually and look at the way we were raised, parents were always taking decisions for us as children. We were never allowed to reason. Now it becomes a problem when you are an adult, because all along in your life, somebody was making decisions for you. You were never given the room to, to express and, to express yourself and to be allowed to voice out why you are arriving at a decision you are arriving at. And then all of a sudden, now, one day you are taught or told that you are an adult, you need to think and act like one. Now we get adults now who are not able to think, or they take decisions that they cannot actually take you through how they arrive at those decisions. But a person will just tell you, like, for example, sorry. For example, men who would tell you that you will do as I tell you. Why? Because I say so. That person fails to reason with you as to how, and try to convince you, to take you through how things must be so. So that has actually disadvantaged men. The fact that those faculties were not properly guided. And we actually thank God that now we are coming to a stage where we are having that increase of knowledge, taking us through, our, to improve on how we raise our children, how we guide them properly, how to teach them to be little people who can reason. And even though sometimes you find that their reasoning may not form logic, obviously, to adults, but we need to allow, that room. That is where we will know, okay, as we guide them through, where do we start? But not shut them down. We need to first understand where are they, so that we know where to begin, the journey of guiding them through. But they definitely do have the capacity and the ability to reason and make choices.
Thank you, Lindell. Is there anyone who wants to say something as well?
Yes, hello.
Deborah, go ahead.
Yeah, they have already commented what I wanted, but I also wanted to say that the knowledge which we are having now, we didn't have it before, because we thought the children they don't develop to reason by themselves. We thought that when we are parent or growing up, we thought it is a parent to teach you. While it is a child can be left the high power to develop as a physical, as a lower power to develop. Even a child can develop like that and be just try to guiding only. But the problem is that where they were before, it was to program them. You, as your parent, you needed to program your child to do this and this. You don't have a child time for him or herself to intellectually develop what she wants. Sometimes we are forcing them to eat what they don't want or to do things which they don't want, which is the knowledge now. Thank you for bringing this for us to know that a child intellectually can develop, and somewhere, somehow, we can guide. Guidance is always, even as Milton said, we grow. We never stop intellectual. Even in now, these things which we are reading now, we are reading, some of us, we are high, more than old, but we are still learning things intellectual. You keep on learning, you will never stop. But a child, really, if we are left to reason for ourselves, we could have been in a better situation than we are when we are directed by parents, must do what they want, even when you see it is not applicable. Thank you, Letwin. That is my contribution.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Hello?
Okay, Martin, go ahead.
Or just to add, and also when you look at the model which especially traditional parenting was using, we look at the physical body first to grow, and then we think later the mind will be able to start functioning properly. But it's actually opposite of what God did in creation, because it's the mind which is created first. So if children are given the ability to think and express themselves earlier, actually it's the mind which has to grow very quick and fast and be able to control the body, which is just the house. But traditional method was like, if someone is still young, they are not able to think, because we want to see what we see first. We can't see the brain, and that's why they were shutting children to actually think. And it was actually the opposite of the nature of man.
Okay, so most of the people that have spoken, they're saying that children can reason. I just want to ask now a follow-up question. At what age do you think children start? Because children just refers to 0 to 18 years. So if maybe we can be specific, each and everyone that has commented and even others that have not commented, at what age do you think children are able to reason? Is it from 0 years? Is it from 2 months? Is it from 5 years or 12 years? Like what age? Because children is just a broad term. It refers to 0 to 18 years. And then I'll ask another question after that. Maybe wants to start. Because everyone says children, everyone is agreeing that children can reason, and it's really depend upon the knowledge they have or the stage and all that. It's all depend. They reason according to the knowledge that you're already having. So I think everyone is saying that. Of course, others put it in different words. But my follow-up question now is that, let's be specific. At what age do they start reasoning? Is it from 0 years? Or it's from 10 years? Or it's from teenagehood? Because children, just saying children is so broad. Does anyone wants to say something? And maybe also the other question is regarding conscious. When do you think, the conscious for children starts like, working properly? Is it from 0 years as well, or it's later on? I think reason and conscious, they go together. Whenever children are able to reason, the conscious is also working properly. So I guess I'm asking, at what stage, what age do you think children conscious and reason is working? Patumus, you are breaking, but I can hear you want to speak. I think he was cut or kicked out. I don't know. Is there anyone who wants to say something?
Hello?
Martin? Yes.
Okay. When I said the average which is given, it's saying from 7, but it depends with the children and also how parents have been involved in guiding. Some can be mature to think properly even before 7. That's why I think even the age to start going to school, it's put at minimum 6 or 7. There they are able to go outside their environment, like from home to school, and manage all those things and be able to follow instructions and all that. So 7 is the minimum, but it can be earlier, it can be later, depending with the environment and the state of the mind. That's my suggestion.
So you're saying plus or minus 7, that's when children are able to choose right and wrong. Basically, is that what you're saying?
Hello,
Yes.
Letwin.
Okay, thank you, Milton. Yes, I'm Cop.
Quinana.
Please. Yeah, Pila, please go ahead.
Mam Quinana.
Oh, Mom Quinana, Kosia. Sorry.
Thank you for this opportunity, Letwin. Children can reason, but their reasoning power develops with age and develops with exposure to a lesson. For example, what they see, they acquire and they develop through constant practice to this exposure. So parents must be careful to expose untoward sins to children, because this constant exposure develops that character. For example, parents who always quarrel, then children will acquire that quarrelsome attitude or character in later lives. But parents who are always jolly and speak kindly to one another, children will acquire that character. So children can reason.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. So the follow-up question
Hello?
is that, let's
Hello?
put an age.
Hello?
Yes, Deborah.
Okay, the children, a child is they develop according to the way they are physically and intellectually brought up. If the child is well nourished, will reason early when there is things which prevent a child to grow. If the environment, if the surroundings, I mean, if the where the home is, what is exposure that child is on, what she's exposed on. All these things, development is different according to the child environment where they grow and how they are physically they are fed.
Okay, thank you so much. So just like with any other developmental milestone, you know, everything really depends on how, you know, the child is, like what Deborah is saying. But you know, there are guidelines that at least by 7 months a baby should be able to lift up their head, should be maybe be able to sit on their own. At least by 1 year, 6 months, a child should be able to walk. You know, sometimes they say even latest by 1 year, 8 months, you know, a child should be able to walk. Then if they're not walking, then it's a red flag, you know, a parent should be worried about. So that's what I'm asking now regarding reasoning. Let's put, Milton has said plus or minus 7. Let's put in a number, because children is just too broad. It's 0 to 18. So let's put a number. At what age are we saying that children are able to reason, are able to, you know, to discern that, you know, or to choose, or to decide, you know, something like that? So I want us to be specific, because children, when you just say children, it's too broad. It's too broad.
Hello.
Yes, Patron.
Okay. Yeah, thank you again for your wonderful lesson. So according to my understanding, I think they begin to reason from year 0, because you can see even in their mother's womb, they can kick, you know, after they are birth, you can see that they can say that I'm hungry. So I think the reasoning grow, but I think it starts from year 0 continuously.
Pat was saying 0. Russell, do you have your hand up?
Oh, hi, Letwin, and good evening to everyone. I just want to give an example, okay? So this one morning, it was around about 7 o'clock. I had to drive my nephew to my sister's house. And then it happened that as we were about to leave, my mom wanted to give my nephew a lollipop. So my sister doesn't want my nephew to like have sweets in the morning, you know, before having breakfast. Usually like now and again they'd have sweets or snacks, you know, around lunchtime or so. So I told my mom that, no, don't give him a lollipop, please don't, you know, and I told her why. But then he already heard that she's getting a lollipop. So he was like, no, I want a lollipop. He kept saying, I want it. So I told him, Riacho, please don't eat your lollipop now. You'll have it later after you've had breakfast. And he said, no, I don't want. So I let him be, because he already said no to me. And then while we were driving, he wanted me to play him his favorite song, you know, on the radio. And I told him, I was like, do you remember when I asked you to not eat your lollipop? You said no. And he kept quiet. And then I said, I also don't want, because now you want me, you're forcing me, and I did not force you. And he's almost, and he was about almost 3 years old. He's not 3. And while we were driving, I'd forgotten I had this conversation with him. So while we were driving, he said to me, Ngane. I said, yes. And he said, I'm so sorry. And I laughed because I was shocked. I wasn't expecting him to like apologize to me, you know. And he said, I'm so sorry. I said no, and I did not, something like that. But he couldn't finish his sentence because, you know, I was shocked. I was laughing, and I wasn't shocked that he's, you know, he's apologizing. But I was like, oh my goodness, are you really apologizing, you know, for saying no and all of that? But I was like, you know, I marveled so much, you know, so he apologized and he asked again for me, you know, to play him his song. And like, I just played the song because now I was like, oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting it. So I'm obviously not answering your question, because you need the exact, I don't know the exact number, but as I'm listening to this, I was really shocked. I wasn't expecting it. You know, I wasn't. You know, it's like, oh, this is new. You know, I'm getting an apology and, you know, all of that. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. But yeah, I marveled. I was like, oh my goodness, he's almost 3. You know, he had not turned 3. I think it was around February when he actually apologized for, you know, not listening and now asking me to now please play him his music. But I just wanted to share that. It's really like, I marveled. I was like, wow.
Thank you, Rasedi, for sharing that experience with us. Gracious.
No?
I thought I heard you wanted to say something, and then I think I disturbed you.
Okay. Actually, after listening to Rased, it disappeared.
No problem.
But at the same time, I think I agree with what Deborah and I don't know who spoke there by Copper family. The one who was before Deborah.
Ma'am Kunana.
Yes. So, yeah, I think the environment plays a big role. How a child is being raised, the opportunities that they have. Yeah, all that. So I've seen this other documentary where there were these children. They were showing us how even children at a tender age, like they are even able to reason that they are either gay or lesbian. I forgot exactly the age, but those kids were still very, very young. It might be 3 or less than 3, but they were very young. They were fighting with the parents because the mother wants the other one to dress like a girl, but she's telling the mom, I'm not a girl, I'm a boy. So at the same time, there are children who are still like babies, who are still like in their early stages of, you know, sucking milk and all that, or they're still in their months, not years. Somewhere, somehow, you can see that there is a bit of development going on in the way they respond to something. So at the same time, to be honest, for me to say to put a number, I think personally, I won't be able to do justice to this question, because I think how a child is being raised or the environment that they are in plays a bigger role. So I might say at 1 year, 1 year might be too late, because already, especially these days, when I'm comparing children of these days, a 1 year of or a 7 months of these days and a 7 months child of long back, there is a big difference. So I think the environment plays a big role. At the same time, a part of me, I don't know whether I should agree with Patumuzi. But a child, like as they grow physically, also the mind is growing. Like, I think everything it develops from the beginning, and then I think it's when they are out bit by bit, that's when we are able to see that now this child is reasoning, or their reasoning capacity is at this level, or it's like children who are still babies. Some, they know that if they cry in this manner, they get what they want. They would have kind of reason that this works or this doesn't work. So in months' time, months, not a year, there is a development that happens with their brain, that they're starting to reason more and more and more as they grow. I don't have the exact number.
Okay, thank you, Precious. Under Copper,
Hi,
there was,
hi, Letwin.
yes, yes, Linda.
I want to disagree. I want to agree with Patumuzi. I'm thinking that personally, that I shouldn't confuse not being able to speak with not reasoning. The fact that at zero, or, well, I don't know at what stage does a zero count. Is it when they are still in their mother's womb? When we refer to zero? But in any case, when they're in their mother's womb, already the learning begins. They learn to recognize voices, sounds. Now, when they are born, they are outside. At the early stages, they don't even have the vision. They can't see. And they are relying now on what they had learned while they were in the mother's womb. Because once they are outside, they can't see, but they can say, hey, I recognize this voice. They can recognize the mother's and the father's voice. When they are crying and one of them starts, talking to the baby, and the baby suddenly, keeps quiet. And it takes a form of reasoning the fact that that recognition, I don't think it's something that just comes just on its own. It takes a form of reasoning because the baby now goes back. I don't know whether at that point you would call it the subconscious, but they go back to that to say, no, I have heard this voice. It takes a form of reasoning. And even as they are babies, that decision to say, I need something, they may not know what it is at that point, but once you feed them, then they keep quiet. When the nappy is wet, they cry. They may not know that I am crying for this wet nappy, but they are feeling discomfort. They cry when they want to sleep. So all those things, they are, those are things and needs that cannot be communicated verbally at that stage. But that cry, there's a thought process that has taken place there. It's just that the communication skills, obviously at that time, are limited. So they can't say, I'm crying because I am, you now as the mother must figure out what this cry means. Is it for hunger? Is it for the wet nappy, or is it time to put the baby to sleep? Do you see? So there's a level of consciousness there. Something is not right and it must be put right. And at that stage, the only way of communication is the cry. And then as they grow, they learn now, better ways of communication to the point that they are able to talk and express. Actually, that cry is an expression of, and when you express something, it means there was a thought process that has taken place. Then you come to a decision that this thing needs to be satisfied. The only way they know how then is to cry. So I concur with Patumuzi that work starts at zero. I don't know now what is zero, but whilst they are in their mother's womb, already there's work that is taking place there. So that is why it is important that to nurture, the first work starts actually when the mother is pregnant. You don't wait till the child is born. A lot of things are introduced at that stage of pregnancy. Then once they are out, it's the continuation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindell.
Hello. Hello.
Shami, go ahead.
Okay. I don't know. Help me on that one. I'm like confused. It's like children usually when they are small, like toddlers, I'm just thinking, do they really have this reasoning? I don't know. Maybe I don't understand maybe the real meaning of reasoning, because children usually that age, they can sit at the edge of the sofa and fall and hit themselves, and sometimes they can even want to touch a candle when it's burning. Even if you tell them, don't touch the candle, you're gonna burn, they just touch. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Help me
So
on that one.
the reasoning we're talking about here is the one of being able to choose the right or choose wrong, decide what's wrong, what's right. That's the reason we're talking about.
So I'm saying, like, if I can say that they can reason, like, some are saying they can reason even in their mother's womb. I'm like children when they are toddlers, you can see that the reasoning to choose from right and wrong is not there. I think as they develop, as they grow, yeah. I don't know.
Under Milton, I'm not sure if it's Gracious or Milton. You can speak.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I wanted to see how I'm seeing it. That development that happens from the time the child is in the womb up to the time maybe they are not like really reasoning, like to the point that they come to like reason. Some of the things which Lindelof was mentioning, when I'm looking at this diagram which you have put there, it's falling under higher powers one, intellectual. So there's the issue of memory, remembering that this is mom and dad's voice, knowledge, understanding information. There's that which happens at the early stages, maybe happens whilst they are in the womb and then when they come out. But now when we're talking of reasoning is the moral power. So I'm still standing when I cannot put the exact like years or months, but it depends with the child, with the with the environment, how they are being brought up. So from the stomach to 0 to 1 month, I think it will fall under this, is going up to the point they start to really reason. All that they might be doing and all that, it's like it's intellectual. It's not the moral power side of it. So I'll agree also with Shami that it's at a certain stage that they start to reason, start to know, I cannot do this, I can do this. This is right, this is wrong. And even you as a parent, you come to a point where, let's say they are being stubborn when you're telling them, don't touch there, you will get bent. You allow them to touch. And when they touch, they will know that. So all that sometimes it happens when a child is, maybe you find it maybe around sometimes 1 year something, because kids are growing so fast these days. And some, yeah, you might find some before even they are 1 year, there are some things, but they're kind of like starting to learn to reason on some of the things. But to like say from 0, it will not be reasoning. I think it's just the knowledge or the memory that is just there. But reasoning, yeah.
Hi, Letwin.
Yes, Linda.
I'm sorry. I think I missed actually something in your question that the thinking we are talking about is the choosing between right and wrong.
Oh, sorry.
I think I missed that part. And thank you to Shami for actually bringing that, that query there. Well, my response wasn't talking to that part of choosing between right and wrong. So I retract my my previous statement or thought. But I still stand by the one that says still at zero. At zero, there's work that is happening in that person. It's not just an empty vessel, but the power of choosing between wrong and right. Yes, it's definitely, not there at that point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I hear you. Patmos.
Hello.
Yes. Yes. Thank you to Elder Gracious also, as well as Shami, because I was not thinking in that part where we differentiate between intellectual and moral. So, yeah, thank you to explain clearly that one. So, but even if a child is young, you can say, don't do this, do that. You can see. I'm still standing also by that. As much as they're young, they can reason. Yes, morally, we can say they are not deciding when they are so young. There is a verse which says, when I was young, I was reasoning like a child, but when I grew old, I'm reasoning like an old person. Also, as we are old, but we can see before the midnight cry message, we were always thinking that we were correct, but we were touching fire. Now, the fact that we have the increase of knowledge, and then we begin to repent and decide anew. So the power of reasoning begin in a very younger age, and then we grow reasoning. Yeah, but thank you. I was not looking into that differentiation between intellectuality and morally. Thanks to Elder Gracious.
Thank you, Patu. Deborah, you can go ahead.
Sorry, I wanted to say reasoning, I mean the high power, intellectual knowledge and the moral, memory, sorry. Those things they develop, you go on, they grow as you grow. I don't think at birth you can have more memory and knowledge and intellectuals. No, it grows as the child grows. And as me, I really, maybe I agree with the Meriton, is around 6 years. When they here, a child is adjusting to environment where they are, and the sounds and all of these things which is around, they learn. But when you come to reasoning, oh, I can't touch this, or I cannot do this. That one is about 6 years. Is when I just start. I mean, you start from down, but really to reason a child, me, I believe it is from 6 years. Maybe I am wrong, but I think from when you run the way children grow, I think memory and the intellectuals, all these, they develop and they go on developing more and more. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. I'm really enjoying the discussion. I wish we could just go on and go on. Thank you so much. So, well, I would like to ask that we continue next time and ask that let's just go research. Let's think about it. Yeah, we'll just continue from here next time. Thank you so much, your contributions and everything. It was so insightful. I really like the discussion, just that time doesn't allow us. So I did my research on my side. So yeah, we'll just continue next time. Let's just hold it here. Is that fair enough? I hope it is. Yeah.
Give us some hints, please.
I'm thinking that if I leave it here, then yeah, the discussions will be even more nice. If I just, tell you what my research says, then I think it won't allow that organic discussion to continue. So I'd like it to continue next time, even before we start, just to hear different opinions and stuff. So I will not, I'm sorry, Milton. Can we finish next time, please?
Okay, that's fine.
Please pray for us, Martin.
Okay, let's pray. Dear Lord, who art in heaven, we thank you this evening for the Sabbath. We thank you for keeping us safe throughout the week. Lord, as we continue to learn and grow in knowledge, we pray that you may continue to lead and guide us. And we thank you for this study and Letwin for leading in this discussion, which reminds us of some of the key pillars that we've opened that are anchoring our faith in this message as we continue to grow and improve the way we view the purpose of our creation. We pray that you may be with each and every one of us, be with those who are not well. May you continue to strengthen us, Lord, that we may be able to remain steadfast in our faith, even though there are so many challenges around us. This is our humble prayer. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. So let's go and research and maybe if we find out, I'm just giving an example that, Milton is right, that it's plus or minus 7 years. Then let's also find out then how do we enter the role or make to choose. So good night, guys. We'll meet tomorrow morning for our morning session. Thank you so much. Good night. Where do I stop?